Hello, welcome to the session Importance of Food Safety for Vulnerable Populations, presented by the Bureau of Microbial Hazards and Bureau of Nutritional Sciences at Health Canada. My name is Marcia Cooper. I'm a research scientist at the Bureau of Nutritional Sciences. As I mentioned, at Health Canada, I work on some food safety and nutrition files.
And my name is Cheryl Jitta. I'm a science project coordinator in the Bureau of Microbial Hazards. I'm a food safety expert and also a registered dietitian.
And I am also a registered dietitian. So our outline for today is, we just did our introductions. We're going to be presenting a couple of videos today. We'll be talking about food safety, foodborne illness, vulnerable populations, the weakened immune system, the 4 key food safety steps, and we'll provide some resources at the end. So first, we're going to show you a cute little video on food safety.
I said, clean, separate, cook, and chill. Clean, separate, cook, and chill. I said, clean, separate, cook, and chill. Clean, separate, cook, and chill. When it comes to making food, you gotta know the trick. Here's things to do so you don't get sick. You gotta clean your veggies and your hands. Wash your germs away. They're not in your plate. You need to separate different types of treat from eat of veggies like they have in a few. If you're helping to cook, best to do it right. Make sure it's up to the temp before you take a bite. Now it's time to chill. Put that food away. Put it in the fridge and move on with your day. Clean, separate, cook, and chill. Clean, separate, cook, and chill. I said clean, separate, cook, and chill. Clean, separate, cook, and chill.
Let's talk a little bit about food safety. Well, food safety is important for absolutely everyone, but it's particularly important for those in vulnerable populations. We can all take simple steps to protect ourselves, our family, and our friends. The food we eat in Canada is really among the safest in the world, but things absolutely can go wrong, and food can become contaminated by bacteria, viruses, and parasites as it makes its way from cooking all the way to the table. So reduce the risk of foodborne illness by following safe food handling and cooking practices.
Now it's my turn. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about foodborne illnesses. So there are many signs of foodborne illnesses. So when you're sick, you might often experience symptoms like nausea, or vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, or cramps. So this is more serious than just, I have a stomach ache. Symptoms can start sometimes right away, or sometimes they'll take days to start, and sometimes they can take weeks to start. So often it's not just the last thing you ate that made you sick. It might be something that you ate last week. So I don't know about you, but I have trouble remembering sometimes what I ate for dinner last night. Usually, most people recover really quickly from a foodborne illness. However, for people who are in vulnerable populations, for example, if they are immunocompromised or have a weakened immune system, these complications can be more serious. And in rare cases, foodborne illness could result in death. I mentioned the term vulnerable populations. So when it comes to food safety, we have 4 categories of vulnerable populations. These are pregnant people, adults age 60 and over, children aged 5 and younger, and people with weakened immune systems. So for pregnant people, they're more at risk due to all of the changes that are taking place in their body. For adults age 60 and older, and the closer I get to that age, the more I want that age to be pushed a little bit higher. But in Canada, that's the age, 60 and older. As we age, it becomes more difficult for our immune system to fight off harmful bacteria. For kids age 5 and younger, their immune systems are still developing. So they're not as able as adults to fight off infections. And for people with weakened immune systems, Some of their conditions or some of the treatments for their illnesses can affect their immune systems, making it difficult for them to fight off foodborne bacteria, and this could lead to serious complications. Weakened immune systems. As I mentioned, the diseases themselves or the treatment for some of these diseases can weaken the immune system. And when your immune system is weak, it's hard for it to fight off anything that's trying to attack you, bacteria, viruses, or parasites. And people in these weakened states, it's more likely that they're going to be sick from contracting foodborne illness. So some of these conditions that can affect your immune system are alcoholism, cancer, especially if you're undergoing chemotherapy or radiation, diabetes, HIV or AIDS, or organ transplantation. And you may also have lower immunity levels than usual if you're taking higher doses of drugs such as steroids or immune suppressants. And the 4 key steps to food safety, as you would have remembered in the rap song, are clean, wash hands and surfaces often, separate, don't cross-contaminate, cook food to proper temperatures, and use your digital food thermometer to check, and chill. Keep cold food cold by refrigerating or freezing promptly. Over to you, Marcy.
So let's do a deeper dive into the whole area of cleaning, which includes washing hands and surfaces often. So when you wash your hands with soap and warm water, and it should be warm water, you must do it for at least 20 seconds or do 2 happy birthday songs in your head, and wash your hands often. This is very important. Here are some examples of when to wash your hands. So before you even embark on eating, or as you're preparing your food, after you touch things such as raw meat, poultry, fish, seafood, or eggs. And if you touch the garbage or even your hair or your trusty phone or your pet, you should be cleaning your hands after you use the washroom or change a diaper. There are often items you need to keep clean in the kitchen. These will include your countertops, your cutting boards, your sink and faucet, your digital food thermometer, which we'll talk about more as we move on in this presentation, and utensils such as can openers, knives, spatulas, and tongs. So after cleaning, sanitize before you start your food preparation. So how do we sanitize? Well, you combine 3 cups of water with a teaspoon of unscented bleach in a labeled spray bottle. So you spray the bleach solution on the surface or utensil and let it stand briefly. And then what you want to do is you want to rinse with lots and lots of clean water and air dry or use clean kitchen towels. So now that your hands and your kitchen are clean, you can start to prepare the ingredients for your recipe. I think that Cheryl has an example of what her bottle looks like.
I do, Marcy. So this is my spray bottle that I keep under my sink. And what I have it labeled so I know exactly what it is. It's a bleach mixture. And then I have the ratio on it. So if I run out, I know exactly how I need to, oh, sorry, it keeps disappearing. I know exactly what goes into it. So I don't need to worry about that again. And it's ready to go under my sink all the time.
So now moving on. So then there's steps that you need to take with your food. So start by washing the produce, and do not use soap to wash that produce. That's a very important thing to put in your mind. Gently wash delicate produce like apples, pears, oranges, cucumbers, mushrooms under cold running water, cold or cool. Then what you need to do is scrub very firmly the produce like cantaloupes, potatoes with a clean vegetable brush under cool running water. because we all know you get those potatoes, particularly if you buy them in a bag and they've got quite a bit of dirt on them, and you do not want to be eating that. And another step you can do is, if you've got lots of food to prepare, give everyone in your household a job to prepare the meal and teach them food safety tips at the same time, and they can help you clean all that food.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about separate, don't cross-contaminate. So the important thing to remember here is you don't want to cross-contaminate, and that means moving bacteria from raw food to cooked food or food that's ready to eat. You want to keep raw meat, so beef, pork, fish, poultry, seafood, separate from food that's ready to eat, like washed salad, cooked meats, or something like bread. It's important to keep these foods separate because you don't want to move the microorganisms from raw foods over to cooked foods. And a good way that I do at home to keep raw foods separate from cooked foods is I use one color cutting board, a red cutting board for raw meat. And then I use another color cutting board, a green cutting board for food that is cooked. So if anyone is helping me in the kitchen, like say Marcy's over and I'm getting her to help me, she'll know, oh, raw, we're only using the red cutting board. And then for cooked foods, we're only using the green cutting board. So you'll see in the illustration below, the raw chicken is only on one cutting board by itself. The next image, the washed raw vegetables are all here on one cutting board by itself. The next image here, the chicken is all cooked on one cutting board. We don't have a cutting board that has raw chicken and cooked chicken. And then here, bread is ready to eat. So it's on a board all by itself being cut up. In this illustration, what we're trying to show here is that it's important not to rinse raw poultry or meat. And the reason for this is when you rinse raw poultry or meat in the sink, what happens is you're spreading around that bacteria to the sink, to the countertops, to really anything that's nearby. So you'll see in this image here, with the faucet running and the poultry in the sink, you're splashing bacteria, which is invisible. You can't see, smell, or taste bacteria that could make you sick. Bacteria is splashing all around the kitchen. And in this image, we're putting on our germ vision goggles, and we can see with our germ vision goggles that bacteria has spread to the paper towels, to the baby bottle, and to the fruit that's washed and ready to eat. So if someone uses this, they could potentially become ill. So we're trying to recommend to people that they don't wash their poultry. Poultry in Canada is ready to go. And we're going to talk about cooking later. It's important to cook it to the proper temperature. And I illustrated previously, there are great ways to separate and avoid cross-contamination in your cooking, using separate cutting boards, separate knives, platters, and tongs for raw fish, poultry, and seafood. I use 2 different cutting boards, but you know what? If you only have one cutting board, that's not a problem at all. You can use the tips that Marcia shared previously and wash and sanitize your cutting board, your knife and your tongs between the raw food and the cooked food, and you're good to go. Marcia, over to you for cook.
So let's now talk about that cooking. So it's very important to cook food to proper temperatures and then check the temperature, as we can't just assume it's reached the proper temperature. So bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, and Listeria, which are naturally occurring on foods, are actually killed by heat. The best way to check that your food has reached a safe internal temperature is to check by using a digital food thermometer. You can't tell that meat is cooked just by looking at that color. So even though it might look, say, a piece of steak might look a little gray, that doesn't mean that it's actually reached the right temperature. So when using a digital food thermometer, check each piece of food since pieces may vary in size. When you get a package of chicken breasts, often, for example, they're not the same size. So it's really important to check each individual one. Use clean tongs to take a piece of food off the heat to a clean plate to actually check the temperature. And for something such as burgers or thin pieces of meat, it's very important to insert the food thermometer through the side of the patty rather than from up on top, as you might go right through the food. Insert the thermometer through the thickest part of the meat, all the way to the middle of that food, not touching any bone. And clean your thermometer between uses according to your manufacturer's instructions. So Cheryl's now going to demonstrate to you what a digital thermometer actually looks like.
So here I have a digital food thermometer. It looks like this. And it usually comes with a cover that you pull off. And this is the actual stem that you would stick into your hamburger or your chicken. And you only put it in when you're checking the temperature. You don't leave it in for the whole time. And this is the face where the temperature will appear. There's an on and off button, and there's a Fahrenheit Celsius button. Some of us prefer Celsius, some of us prefer Fahrenheit. On Health Canada's website, we have a temperature chart where you can see the proper temperatures that you should be cooking all your foods to. We have a reference at the end of our presentation.
So how do you cook your food to proper temperatures? Well, what you need to do is keep hot food hot or at above 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit before serving. Bacteria can actually grow rapidly when food is allowed in what's called the temperature danger zone, between 4 degrees and 60 degrees Celsius, or 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's important to keep your food above that temperature of 60 degrees. So what do you do when you've got leftovers? Well, you need to reheat them to an internal temperature of 74 degrees Celsius, which is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's very important, if you've got gravy, to bring it to a full rolling boil and stir a few times while reheating. So what is a full rolling boil? When you've got your gravy in a pot and you see that it's making lots and lots of bubbles, not just steaming, but that full aeration with lots and lots of bubbles, and then you'll know that you're getting there to your temperature. All right, Cheryl, over to you.
I like your description, Marcy.
Thank you.
And I'm going to wrap it up with chill. So it's important to keep cold food cold by refrigerating or freezing promptly. So you'll see that we brought the danger zone back because the danger zone is so important when it comes to food safety. So danger zone is not a good zone to be in. We like to either keep hot food hot, as Marcia had talked about, and we also like to keep cold food cold. So that's 4 degrees or below. So make sure your fridge is set at 4 degrees or lower and your freezer at minus 18 degrees Celsius or lower. And if you're not sure, you can buy an appliance thermometer to check. These days, a lot of fridges have built-in thermometers. You can just check really easily. But if you don't know, you can just buy a thermometer yourself and check to make sure that you're achieving those temperatures. The reason it's important to keep your fridge at those temperatures is because you want to keep the foods in your fridge and freezer out of the danger zone. That's the important thing that we need to achieve. Danger zone is where bacteria grow quickly and multiply fast. Bacteria love the danger zone. Humans, not so much. Other ideas is in the fridge, it's a good idea to keep raw food separated from other foods in your fridge. So for example, we just passed Thanksgiving. So if you're thawing a food in the fridge, don't thaw something at the top of the fridge, it's a good idea to thaw that food in a lower part of the fridge in a container that's large enough so any juices that come out from the thawing will be contained in the container. And we like to thaw it in the lower part of the fridge, so if a juice does drip, it's not going to drip on all the other foods that are below it. Another really good idea is to make sure you put leftovers away within 2 hours or sooner. If it's summertime, you want to put those leftovers away sooner. Or if the house is really warm, remember the danger zone. You don't want to leave foods in that danger zone temperature. If it's warm in the house, get those leftovers in the fridge sooner. If you're at a party and you know what, everyone's having a great time, but you know those leftovers have been sitting out for more than 2 hours, not a great idea to keep that food for another day. Either get your friends and family to eat the food faster, or think about throwing that food out. That would be the safer bet. And then the last thing, and I was talking to my friend Marcia about this earlier, sometimes I forget about planning for my meals. And so we're in a rush and we have to thaw something for dinner. So the safest way to thaw, number one, is in the fridge, right? In the fridge, in a container on the bottom shelf. Best way to thaw. Second best way to thaw is in cold water in a container in the sink. Change the water often. And then the third best way to thaw is in the microwave using the thaw button. Most microwaves have this function. But then once your food is thawed in the microwave, you need to cook that food right away. Why? Because you want to keep that food out of the temperature danger zone. So thawing is really important. Why? To avoid the danger zone.
So now we want to share with you another video. This should reinforce everything that we've talked about and hopefully bring home some of those concepts that we've talked about.
Food handling safety risks at home are more common than most people think. The 4 easy lessons of clean, separate, cook, and chill can help prevent harmful bacteria from making your family sick. Wash your hands with warm water and soap for 20 seconds before and after handling food. Also, wash cutting boards, dishes, utensils, and countertops with hot soapy water before and after preparing each food item and before going on to the next. Rinse all fresh fruits and vegetables under cool running tap water, including those that have skins and rinds that will not be eaten. Scrub each firm-skinned fruit and vegetable with a clean vegetable brush while rinsing. Don't cross-contaminate. Keep raw meat, poultry, seafood, and their juices apart from other food items in your shopping cart, grocery bag, and in your refrigerator. Use one cutting board for fresh produce and a separate one for raw meat, poultry, and seafood. Never place cooked food on an unwashed plate that previously held raw meat, poultry, seafood, or eggs. Cook to safe temperature. Color is not a reliable indicator of doneness. Use a food thermometer to measure the internal temperature of cooked foods. Make sure that meat, poultry, egg dishes, casseroles, other foods, and leftovers are cooked to the internal temperatures shown in the chart. Never defrost food at room temperature. There are 3 safe ways to defrost food: in the refrigerator, in cold water that's changed every 30 minutes, and in the microwave. Food thawed in the microwave should be cooked immediately. Refrigerate promptly. Bacteria multiply fastest at temperatures between 4 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius, so chilling food promptly is one of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of microbial foodborne illness. Refrigerate or freeze meat, poultry, eggs, and other perishables within 2 hours of purchase or preparation. Keep the fridge at 4 degrees Celsius or lower and use a refrigerator thermometer to check the temperature. For more information, visit befoodsafe.ca.
And lastly, we just wanted to refer you to several different places on our website where you'll find lots of really good, interesting information on safe food storage, safely defrosting foods, safe cooking temperatures that we referred to earlier, food safety tips for leftovers, and food safety for vulnerable populations. Hopefully you learned some really interesting information from Marcia and I, and it was a pleasure to speak with you today.